You want to hit you? Great. We'll get started today. Welcome, everyone. My name is Kathy Pettit. I'm at the Urban Institute and with Leah Hendy co-direct the National Neighborhood Indicators Partnership. And we are co-sponsoring this webinar with our close friends at University of Pittsburgh that lead the Civic Switchboard project that you'll hear more about in a minute. And you can, if people are joining, you can definitely still introduce yourself in the chat, and we'll give a little background on NNIP and Civic Switchboard for those folks who aren't familiar with us, and then shift over to the exciting parts of the presentation to hear about Charlotte and Las Vegas. Before, we did leave some time for questions at the end, but feel free to put questions in the chat along the way. So I will start the few slides that we have. So the National Neighborhood Indicators Partnership, or NNIP, our mission has been for 30 years to help local communities use data to shape strategies and investments so all neighborhoods are places where people can thrive. NNIP partners, for those of you who are guests here, do three main functions. The data is the core of it. They assemble and transform and maintain neighborhood level data, so at relevant geographies for people across topics. They most importantly is the center, and this actually coincidentally also features Charlotte. They share the data and really collaborate with residents, government agencies, nonprofits, philanthropy on the ground to benefit their own communities. And then finally, they build community capacity to use data. This is more general and can be like trainings or data days that several partners have. Here we have Milwaukee, who is also featured here. So they're really long-term embedded organizations that are committed to this mission. They might be different kinds of institutions, whether university centers, nonprofits, or other kinds of centers. And I think all of this will come through as Asha talks about her work with the libraries and how that is integrated in these different pieces. That was the local partners, and they do the service their communities and provide really the evidence base of what we know for the network, similar to how Civic Switchboard has harvested lessons from the field and our close community of practice. The Urban Institute is a nonprofit research organization in Washington, D.C., and we organize and support the peer learning of the network. We help spread NNIP to new places, bring our policy expertise. We have 12 centers across many policy areas, and really represent the values and the importance of local data capacity to national groups and networks. And then finally, we have a few alumni on the call also, that people who are staff who leave NNIP organizations. And as I mentioned, we're such a close community of practice that folks want to stay connected. So we have connections into public agencies, nonprofits, advocacy groups, other places where the NNIP staff go. We have about 80 folks that are part of that, part of our really broader community. Here is a map of both the partner cities. As I mentioned, we're really interested in bringing this model to many other places. Both folks we're working with who are on the call that are really actively thinking about the model, and then folks that we've been talking to with just a couple conversations so far. So if you are not in an NNIP city and are interested, I think the librarians could be great champions for this model. If you are in an NNIP city and you don't know you're an NNIP folks, we are happy to do those introductions after the webinar. And I will turn it over to Nora.
Thank you so much, Kathy, and thanks to NNIP for the opportunity to co-host this event. So my colleague Liz Monk and I are on this call today representing the Civic Switchboard Project, which originated in Pittsburgh around 10 years ago, but has really expanded to a community of practice of library workers and data organizations from around the country. So just a little bit of context about its origin, because it really represents the sort of partnership that we see as really valuable and important. The NNIP partner in Pittsburgh is the Western Pennsylvania Regional Data Center, which Liz Monk works at. And when the Western PA Regional Data Center was getting off the ground, the folks there, Liz and others, came to the library systems. I was working at the academic library at the University of Pittsburgh at the time, and we started collaborating on different things, like, for example, metadata that would accompany open data sets shared through the data portal. Liz was working closely with the public library at the time to design some data literacy trainings. And that collaboration that cut across an open data project and a community data project in Pittsburgh in our library systems really was the origin of the Civic Switchboard project. So there have been different partners on this project over the years, including NNIP and local library systems. I'm now at the School of Computing and Information teaching library science. Kathy, next slide, please. So based on our experiences in Pittsburgh working together, we saw an opportunity and really shared values and shared responsibilities that cut across data projects, local data projects, and library work. So we saw really synergy there, and really the key concept in this project is that libraries and library workers can act as key actors in community data ecosystems along with data organizations. And we see, we have a couple of principles captured here that the first principle reflects this idea that we see value in working in partnership, and that's really the focus of today's call, libraries working in partnership with local data organizations or agencies or local government. And we also recognize that what we were doing in Pittsburgh may not relate to what library data work would look like in different communities. So we were really intentional at the start of the project to gather case studies that provided insight into the different ways that libraries could participate in this work. Kathy, next slide, please. And we've captured those stories in different resources that we have available. So my colleague Liz will pop in these links into the chat. She just shared the website for the project, which is kind of a go-to, the point of entry for these resources. So we have a guide that shares cases of libraries working in partnership with NNIP partners or local government. We have an educational series for library workers or library science instructors and students to learn about community data work in libraries. We've run workshops and institutes nationally, and then we'll share at the end of the call. We have community calls because really Civic Switchboard, though the project began and has been administered by Pittsburgh, it's a community of practice. And we hold calls to bring us together to share experiences. And we have one coming up in July that we'll share in the chat at the end of the session. Next slide, Kathy. So, and then if you're interested, we also have just a listserv. It's a Google group where we share, like when we have a community call, or it's a place where people could also share things that they're working on or resources related to community data work and libraries. Next slide. So we organized this call with NNIP to spotlight some stories of local data organizations and government working with libraries on community data work. So we're so excited to share two cases today. And Kathy, if you can move on to the next slide. We have three speakers who are here to share their stories. We're going to hear first from Asha Ellison, who's the Director of Research, Translation, and Engagement at UNC Charlotte Urban Institute. And Asha will be sharing ways that this NNIP partner has worked with the local library. And then we have a story of a partnership that will be shared by our Civic Switchboard Community of Practice member, Corey Lambert, who's head of digital collections at University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and Alexis Young, who's the senior management analyst for the City of Las Vegas's Department of Innovation and Technology. So we're so grateful to the speakers here today. And I think at this time, we're going to turn things over to Asha.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Thumbs up, head nods. Okay, got it. Well, thank you guys. I'm so excited to be here to share with you the ways that the Charlotte Urban Institute has partnered with libraries. We are very grateful to be able to work alongside them, as the library's mission here in Charlotte Mecklenburg is to improve lives and build a stronger community. And we think that that aligns very much with the work that we do at the Institute when we are, really deeply rooted, fundamentally rooted in just helping local communities and our regional community to find solutions, data-backed solutions to some of our area's most challenging and pressing socioeconomic issues. And so ways that we've been able to partner with our library system has been first and foremost for program evaluation. So they came to us, the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library, in 2023, 2024, to do a program evaluation for a computer program they were doing at the time. It was a digital inclusion program, equity program called MECTEC Computer Program. And at that time, from October 2020 to July 2023, they actually distributed more than 20,000 laptops in the community to adults who needed access to these devices. And so when they called us in, we did an evaluation on the program, its success, and made recommendations for that particular program. And so that's one of the ways that we work with the library, and it was kind of like a relaunching point of sorts. We'd had a previous relationship with the library when I could not tell you because it predates me. But at one point in time, we did receive certain data from the library about like library card holders and all of that type of information. And so at some point, that connection, people move on, you kind of lose a contact, things like that may happen. And so I think it kind of fell off the radar for, the partnership and collaboration with the Institute. And so being able to come back in and support them with MECTEC really opened up the doors for us to kind of get back into a proximate relationship and building that with the library again. Some other ways that we support the library now is we have a data partnership again. So, one of the things that did come out of that connection with the library again was that we were able to reach out. We started talks with the library probably in about 2025, 2024, about being able to get their library card holder data again to add it to our Charlotte Mecklenburg Quality of Life Explorer. If you are not familiar with the Quality of Life Explorer, that's our interactive online dashboard that allows us to, explore information about neighborhood demographics across 9 domains and more than 80 variables. It gives us, information about, social, housing, economic, environmental, and safety conditions in the area. And so now that we have this library card holder data, we now can figure out how many library card holders exist in a certain, NPA or whatever. And hopefully we will be able to use that information to be able to ask greater research questions, maybe about card holdership and, other things with like crime. I know I was talking to Sydney, who's actually our associate director of the Charlotte Regional Data Trust, and she was talking about something they looked at preliminarily like years ago about how library card holdership, I keep calling that, I don't know if it's a word, but that's what we're calling it now. Library card holdership actually may have had some, correlation to violence and all of those things, like where it helped to understand where there were library deserts and maybe, what some of the social outcomes were happening in those communities, but it allows us to ask broader questions about those types of things. So we work with them as a library, as a data partner. And we also work with the library to socialize that quality of life explorer. We know that that's valuable, not only to people in the community, but to the policymakers and decision makers and neighborhood organizations that are trying to better understand and serve and support their communities. And so we have started working on a process and a program to kind of train our librarians and our library staff to become more fluent with the tool themselves, so that they can host library programs at their individual neighborhood branches, centered on specific topics, whatever people might be interested in. And so we kind of go in and we start with a basic demonstration of the tool. We give history about it, how it came to be, how it's been beneficial. And then we do kind of like a, case by case kind of example of like ways that they can utilize these the tool itself and how it could fit into certain communities. We open it up to participants and have them engage, ask questions about what they see or what they would like to see. Even we've gotten a lot of great ideas, and so that's one way that we continue to do that. We know that hopefully, they'll be able to on their own be able to host, programs that are specific to, curious residents or other nonprofit organizations, be able to help them to understand how that tool can help them with understanding certain impact or needs and do neighborhood needs assessments for their communities. I would say another way that we partner with the library is they provide us space in the community. When we are doing our community engagement work and we're working on like innovation incubator programs within our corridors of opportunity, and we are looking to bring community together to highlight information or to just talk about some of the initiatives that we have, the libraries have been a strong supporter in offering their space to us. I think every single corridor we have been in, and even some of our symposiums or, community engagement sessions where we just have an open door where we want people to come in and ask questions about community engagement and our faculty engagement, then they can come and meet us at the local regional library or some of those neighborhood branches. So the library has been just a wonderful partner with us. And then through this work, we've also determined and learned from library staff that they were already using a lot of research from the Institute as well as that Quality of Life Explorer to help them plan programs in their community already. When they can go to the tool and find out, where there may be areas that are experiencing more food insecurity, then they are better prepared to provide like summer programs that include nutrition services and all of those things to certain areas. And that was just delightful to even hear from them that, hey, we've already been using this, and these are some ways that this tool is valuable to us. So it was just a natural collaboration and partnership. And I know one of the questions that has come up has been, does your university library feel some type of way about this connection and the way that you work together? But that doesn't tend to be the case. They are a public library as well in the community. And so they tend to support our connections to the larger, Charlotte Mecklenburg Library. And the ways that even our community support us. I mean, our campus library supports us is amazing because they help us when it comes to archival research and really trying to understand the history of some historical research. They help us when it comes to understanding data tools. They keep us abreast of data tools and resources. They help with training us on ways that we can catalog, research, archive things. And so they really have been just wonderful supporters as well. So those are all of the ways, and I'm pretty sure I'm missing plenty of ways that we work together or the ways that we will continue to work together in the future. But this has been the way that our library just supports us and works with us. And we hope in the future to develop more programming that allows us to continue to work together and co-create solutions with our community because they're a trusted community center first and foremost. So we know that if we need to get relevant information out or we want to, survey the community, oftentimes they're going to find out about these things through the library. And so they're a really great place and hub for us to connect to. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Asha. That was great. And giving all kinds of new ideas, hopefully, to the folks on the phone. We'll switch over to our friends in Las Vegas.
Okay, I'm just going to share the presentation now. Do you guys see a slide from me?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, great. Um, Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. First, I thought we could start with some introductions. My name is Corey Lampert, and I'm at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. University Libraries, it's an academic library, and I've been there for about 20 years. I'm a professor and head of the Digital Collections Department. And I'm really pleased to be joined today by my colleague, Alexis. Would you like to introduce yourself now, please?
Sure. Thank you, Corey. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having us. We're very excited to share everything we've been working on. My name is Alexis Young. I work here at the City of Las Vegas. I actually used to be a fire dispatcher and then made my way over to the Innovation and Technology Department. I am a senior management analyst. I work with a lot of data and analytics for our department and for the city in general, but I also am our open data program manager. So I oversee our open data program here at the city.
Great. So I thought today this is a bit of an agenda of what we'll cover. We basically just want to share the Las Vegas story with you in terms of what's been going on with open data, how our partnership began, what we've been working on, and maybe share a bit of our experience so that maybe some of the lessons we've learned can help others out, since this is, as Nora mentioned, a community of practice, and we like to share our experiences with each other. So my beginnings with open data were way back in 2016. I actually got an email out of the blue from the City of Las Vegas IT department inviting me to get involved with the open data portal creation. It actually, interestingly enough, was started because they found my faculty profile online. and saw that I had some metadata experience. And so when they were building the portal, I was contacted and invited to participate. And from there, I ended up joining the Open Data Steering Committee um, after the portal was launched. And so that's how I got involved. And I've been part of the City of Las Vegas Open Data Project since about 2016-17. Alexis, do you want to tell us about how you got involved?
Sure. So when I joined the IT department here at the city, the biggest initiative I was given right when I started was we need to overhaul the open data program. It's lackluster. We're meeting the requirements that we are bound to keep from our city initiative, but it's not everything that we're hoping it could be. And we really want you to kind of breathe life into it again. So when I first started, we really just worked on kind of getting a baseline, getting access to everything, as well as just cleaning things up, making sure that things are titled correctly, making sure that metadata is correct, maybe getting rid of outdated data sets or ones that maybe be incorrect, information that may not be fully understandable. We've had a lot of conversations around just because data is published does not mean that that makes it transparent. So really just trying to build a really great foundation to start open data from, as well as reshaping our open data steering committee. We've had a lot of people retire over the years that were on this committee. So we've completely rebuilt that with Corey's support as well. She comes all the way down to the city from UNLV, which we always appreciate. I try to treat her to lunch or coffee for making the drive over and spending time with us. And I always enjoy that time with her regardless. But our CFO sits on the Open Data Steering Committee as the co-chair. Our Director, Innovation and Technology is as well another co-chair, as well as many directors and different leaders throughout the city of Las Vegas, city attorney, city clerk's office, just to kind of get together and talk about what's important and how we're making decisions. And then I am just that main point person that's helping drive these things, bringing forward new ideas, and working with Corey to keep open data alive. So this is our City of Las Vegas open data portal as we know it for right now. This is just the homepage. This is the original open data portal that we started with all the way back in 2016, 2017. So our open data portal, while the actual data sets that go on the portal are from community members or from our departments that provide the data, we always tell them we are not the data owners. We are the data keepers. We house the information. So we always let them know and educate our departments and the stakeholders giving us their information that they are responsible for making sure this information is accurate and providing it in a way that they would like it portrayed, because we do not know their data as well as they do. And then I work with our GIS team here in IT to actually farm the data, clean it, make sure it looks good, and it is presented the way that the department would like it to be put on the portal, and it is housed in Esri or ArcGIS. We like using that platform specifically because it does have the opportunity to build dashboards and maps, and a lot of our city data is already held in ArcGIS and Esri. We already pay for it. It doesn't cost us any additional funds to put open data on there, so it really is just a win-win. The steering committee decides that we have a process of how data sets are put on the portal. So anytime new information is brought forward and wants to be published, or if something is going to be removed, any major changes, it does have to be brought to the committee for a vote. And then once voted and approved, and then those changes can be made. This is going to be getting an overhaul. And Corey and I will talk a little bit more about how that has to do with our partnership, but we are working with some UNLV students at this point in time for a project where they are actually working on a new look for our open data portal. So I'm hoping in the next year or so, we'll be able to have something new that we can share and bring back to you to show you exactly how this partnership works.
That's great. Thanks so much, Alexis. I know that when I started with the project, there was an initial document that was created that talked a lot about where the vision for Las Vegas Open Data would ideally go. And it sort of started through an impetus of what works cities that started in the original work off, but the bullet points you see here are really what grounds the open data work in Las Vegas, and I think it's values that are shared across all of our projects. And I think while we share these different values, we also have, as mentioned in Civic Switchboard, a lot of local context that then gets layered on top of these. So I wanted to mention a little bit about that context. The city of Las Vegas is in the state of Nevada, which is a very large state with not a lot of people in it. We have two major academic research libraries, one in the north, one in the south. We have a state library, which is also up north in Carson City. But the bulk of the population is down in the southern part of the city, southern part in the city of Las Vegas. And we have a very large and robust public library system, the Clark County Library District, that serves 2.5 million patrons in an area the size of Connecticut. So it's a big branch library system. But between the south and the north, we've got a lot of desert, a lot of rural areas. So that's a unique issue for our state. In addition, we are a very transitory state. We have population that comes, population that goes with the economy. But right now we're growing again, and we had about 42,000 people move to the metro area last year. Las Vegas is characterized as being a place that is very entrepreneurial. We have the hospitality industry. There's a huge focus on the university being a pipeline for economic growth. And so it's important at UNLV for us to evolve and be a place where innovation and community-oriented, non-traditional relationships with the community can develop. So we're really focused on trying to not only just serve the undergraduate students or graduate students in our institution, but also think about how we can help with the economic drivers in the city of Las Vegas. So I thought we could talk a little bit about the activities and the collaborations we've been working on. As I mentioned in the early days, it was all about building the portal, forming the governance system, establishing rules, and then, I was brought in with the library experience of expertise in metadata. And that has now grown into a launched portal and some recent work that I'll let Alexis talk a little bit about, including the Open Data Steering Committee.
Yeah, thank you, Corey. As I mentioned, we've done a lot of work recently trying to clean up the portal. We want to make sure that anything that we're publishing out there is accurate, correct, up to date, as well as how we're describing the information. As we know, SEO is a huge part of the internet these days, and as well as AI. So we are wanting to make sure that people are able to find our information, that we're using the correct language to describe what people are looking at, as well as that when they're reviewing the data that it makes sense and they can understand what they're reviewing. As we all know, at least I think so, if not, for open data, you have to still as well publish the raw data. So you can publish it in a map form, you can publish it in a dashboard form, but there also has to be a link available for them to download the raw data. And we see a lot of that because we have a lot of different businesses, community members, even UNLV students that download our raw data to plug into apps to use for research projects. So we have to make sure that that information is clean and ready to go in that downloadable format every single day. We have had situations where we will get an email from someone, hey, that data that I look at every single day, there's an error on there. I need you to fix it because my app's not working. So we still really in close contact with our community to make sure that we're staying on top of that. As well as really working on automation, as Corey said, this is a huge lift. We move millions and millions of rows of data per day, not just for open data, but for the city in general. So trying to automate as much as we can while still trying to keep the quality of the data alive. A training that we did last year, which Corey will talk a little bit more here in a moment, and really making sure that we're doing internal and external education, making sure that our department knows why we're doing open data, what the purpose of it is, and how we should be approaching this program, as well as informing City of Las Vegas and the community itself that this information is even available. When we did a huge public records request audit and did some research, we're finding that a lot of the information people are requesting are actually already published. They just don't know that it exists publicly already. So really also giving them that education that these resources exist to them, whether it's data we're publishing or the library. And then in the future, we are looking at maybe incorporating a feedback mechanism on the portal, asking people what they would like to see, reimagining the portal, as I discussed, as well as promoting it through more partnership with UNLV, partnership with community members, and getting more backing from our city council and those higher powers that be.
So I wanted to just give you some visuals of some of the events that have taken place at UNLV related to data. I became involved with the Civic Switchboard project around the same time I started collaborating with Alexis, and it's really been a springboard to building some of the library skills that we have with data into the collaboration with Alexis, but also knowing that nationwide that the Civic Switchboard project has resources and support for lots of different types of library involvement with data. So we've done workshops for civic engagement. We've done Love Data Week. We've done a hackathon at UNLV. And every year I do a workshop on using the Open Data Portal for faculty and students. And so these activities have really helped, I think, as Asha said, libraries are kind of a trusted place. And so it's a great part of the partnership to be able to bring people in as a gateway through the library to this data. And I really particularly love and find most meaningful building that trust with students, because they come in, they may not even know anything about Las Vegas. They may be totally new to the city, and through the library, we can kind of gently introduce them to their home, their state, the information that's available to them, and how to do research with accurate information. So just to kind of summarize and round out our story, we did want to highlight a key project that we undertook recently, which was an open data managers training. And it was a workshop that was co-designed by Alexis and myself for city data set managers and data intermediaries. And we really wanted to present an event where city staff could focus on what is open data and why should time be devoted within their busy schedules to contributing to the open data portal. We built in some interactive activities to try to get them to brainstorm new data sets. And through this project, I think it was our first attempt to do some internal education. And we did learn from this event that maybe there are things we would do differently. But Alexis, what do you think were some of the impacts or comments from the folks at the city after the training?
Yeah, I think, like Corey said, we did learn a lot. I think a lot of people, when given this training, either had gotten a lot of mixed communication about what open data was or why they were there or what was going on, as well as the importance. It had seemed as though, maybe it was all of a sudden a really important initiative. But again, this just kind of comes back to my origination into the city and the IT program, getting this back up and going and really trying to breathe life into it again. But some of the really big takeaways that I think opened a lot of our staff's eyes was hearing from Corey and the different ways that people actually are using our open data portal. And we do have a yearly report that we do every single year that we have to present to council with different data that's included, all of our data sets, statistics. I pulled a couple things from there, and we also share this with them during the meeting. But for this past year, we had 50 data sets that were published. This was also our first full year using Google Analytics attached to the portal, so we were able to get way more insights than usual. Throughout every single page, we had 24,000 page views for the year. And then we always keep track of what our top 10 data sets are, top 5 data sets are. And all of those data sets consistently are related to financial transparency, development activity, and public safety. And so one, we were able to share this with them, and one, they were able to connect what Corey was sharing about her students using the data and the community using the data. I think we were at least able to make a beginning impact of showing them that this is not just something that exists out there. It is something that people are actively looking at, whether it's students, businesses, entrepreneurs, or even people in other countries looking to see what the city of Las Vegas is up to. So Corey was wonderful. We were very happy to have her, and she's so, so knowledgeable. I've learned so much from her along the way, and we're very excited to have her back whenever she's willing to come.
So, just to conclude, I know we're at the end of our time. This is some advice that we would share with others. I think sometimes you need to be curious about who might be doing community data work that you haven't thought about. I will admit that it's been a long road to getting success in this project. And I think it's important to be creative and start small and think about the easy wins. Um, and just continue to be persistent and take that time, because the trust that was built through the time invested is a key part of why we've been so successful. I think, sharing the story like we're doing today, and as Alexis has told me many times, what's really important about this collaboration is the relationships that have developed and the value we get from learning from each other. And we do hope to continue to grow our network, maybe connecting more with the public libraries and connecting with additional teams and organizations in Las Vegas. And I think right now, sometimes things are a little bit tougher. We're having some staffing issues at the library right now, but I continue to return to our goals and values and the successes we have had to motivate me and keep me engaged in this. And I like to say to people, what happens in Vegas becomes data. So it's good to keep working on this. There's lots of stuff we can do in the future, including events, promotional materials, data literacy trainings, maybe applying for some grants to get some additional money, and just working for more partnerships and recognition of the great work that Alexis is doing and that the university and the city's partnership can add so much value to our community. So I will stop there, and I know there will be some time for questions, but please feel free to reach out to either one of us if you have any questions or you just want to talk about open data. We're always here to talk shop. Thank you very much.
Corey, Alexis, Asha, thank you so much for sharing. It's really gratifying to hear these local stories, and your partnerships sound so strong and such mutual benefit. But yeah, we'll open it up for questions if people have any. You can add to the chat, or if you want to raise your hand. I'm going to start with one while we wait. One of the things we've seen in Civic Switchboard that's come up is that people have left their positions, both on the library side, both on the data, the other side of it. What thoughts or advice do you have for building into like institutionalizing it, making these strong partnerships so that when it's based on a personal relationship or one person's excited about data, when they leave, that it doesn't fall apart?
Happy to jump in here. I think that it's important to be able to bring in other, I don't want to say units, but other departments and other colleagues. And while we're in the process of making those connections and collaborations with also your colleagues to people in the organizations externally, I'm somebody who cares a lot about process, if we can get things documented. So even when it comes to like working with the library on socializing our quality of life explorer or whatever initiatives may be forthcoming, maybe trying to work on developing like a curriculum or something that can be implemented by someone else in the off chance, you should win $1 million and disappear on, your employers, right? But I think that that's one of the things that has been most helpful is bringing other people into the conversation. I know that when I did get hired by the Urban Institute, and that was only, it'll be 3 years this September, that was something that we'd had conversations about, me and my leader at the time, my supervisor, and she said, you've got the connection with the library because newsflash, I used to actually work at the public library. So that's part of why I've been able to kind of jump back in because these are my, friends from the past. And so it's been a lot of like making those connections and saying, hey, I think that this person was good for you to know because you're doing this work in this area at the Institute. And then this person is good for you to know because this is what you're doing. And so making those connections can really help, I think, to just reinforce what you're building. So that way, when you lose one block, the whole thing doesn't come crumbling down.
I would just add to that. I think that's a great point, and I also am trying to spread out the collaboration to additional people at UNLV. But another thing that I've done, and it took me a while to achieve this, but I picked away slowly at different administrators talking about this project, and eventually, in the last two biennial strategic plans, I was able to get it in writing that this community partnership is something we value and that it should be, part of our continuity planning. And so I think if there's a way that you can get it into any of your annual report planning or, strategic planning documents or get it on the administration's radar as a valuable project, that can help as well.
Yeah, I know for me specifically as well, I've really worked on communicating expectations, one that are of me, but also what I expect of the people that I'm reporting to, because we are, of course, at the end of the day, serving the community. And so really trying to enable myself and give myself some autonomy by asking questions, is this something that needs committee approval to be done? Is this something I can do on my own? If it's data that's already publicly published elsewhere, is this something we can also put on the open data platform? Can we use our UNLV projects that we do every semester? Can we use open data as one of the topics in order to work towards some things that maybe we don't have time ourselves to do? And whenever I can get a yes, then I know going forward, it's a yes. And so it's really enabled us to get some other things done without constantly feeling like we need approval or we have to get their buy-in for, and kind of working in its way of it will be accepted and allowed going forward so that we can continue to move forward.
Thank you. These are great, great answers. Very much, so much intention in it and additional work to really solidify it. There's a question in the chat for Alexis. We have a tight budget at the city. Do you have any advice for creating a compelling ask for more robust support of our open data systems for our legislative body come budget season?
Oh, that is a tough one. I really think it's just a matter of, with any government job, of course, budget is going to be, I mean, we all, technically it's government, right? The library, that we all serve the community and the public. And so budget is always going to be a huge part. And unfortunately, I used to be a social worker, again, 911 dispatcher. Money does not typically get thrown toward these types of initiatives first. And even when we ask, it's still not normally given. And so I would honestly say, for us, at least, our GIS team is who does our open data program. I know the city of Henderson has a dedicated team that does open data. They have more budget for that. Really just continuing, I think, to show the need for it, what is possible, what you can do. And honestly, we have really open conversations as well about workload and the amount of data that we are moving for this and all the things that it can be. But that we do not have a dedicated team that only focuses on open data and publishing data for our citizens. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's up to them to decide if they feel as though that is something that they want to contribute more money to or more funding to. But I operate under the policy of, if you don't ask, the answer is no. So I would just keep asking, and hopefully one day you get a yes. You're always welcome to reach out to me separately, though. We can talk more in depth. You can email me, and I can hear a little bit more about what your individual situation is and kind of like where we've done. Sorry, I wish I had a better answer for you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Go for it.
So you talked about the importance of institutionalizing the relationship after it had formed in order to have it persist. But did you need, like, what did you need to do to get buy-in from leadership when you actually started to form these collaborations? I know in Charlotte you had that existing relationship, but um, what kind of advice would you give somebody else who's thinking about a relationship with a library in terms of like getting the okay and the buy-in to spend time on that?
I could start with just a couple of ideas that I have. I took a multifaceted approach to bringing this project into my workload and my portfolio. And it started initially with, oh, I'm just going to do a little exploratory research. Luckily, being in an academic library, we have the freedom to do that. And so I just started reading and thinking about it in that sense. And I think one way is just to educate yourself about it and share that with others because maybe open data isn't on everyone's radar in the library. Another thing that has been really helpful is there are a lot of materials from Civic Switchboard that I feel like have been able to quickly communicate that this is a thing that libraries are doing. And it just has been so helpful to have something written down that says, libraries have a role in this and partnerships are valuable. And so I think utilizing those materials has been really helpful for me. Um, and then finally, just making the case that the university being in the community adds value to our positions as faculty. And so, I have made the case, I've had to make the case to my supervisor, to the dean, to various people, my peers in my tenure portfolio. And I sort of craft the message differently depending on who I'm talking to. But what it really boils down to is using these skills that are present in the library to create value in creative ways that maybe the community can benefit from and building these relationships so that the university gets credit for, being a partner and helping to build something. And so that's kind of the approach that I've taken.
We love that answer. I put in the chat one of the materials that came out of the Civic Switchboard project was making the case for like admin, and that's the first link I put in there. We have time for one more question.
Until we get another question, I might be able to add something as well to what Corey said and to kind of piggyback off the previous question that I got. I think coming with facts, figures, as well as, finding resources that you already have available to you to show you how you can get some of these things done and to prove again, like we use our ArcGIS and Esri platform that we are already using for a substantial amount of our data. And it's something that we already pay for. We already have tokens. It's already approved by our IT department. Being able to bring that forward and show what we can do with open data with something that we already have without having to use additional resources, I think can help make a case for what you could do if you have more. So kind of like Corey is saying as well, showing them what you can do and giving them I really try to give them the ability to say yes to me as much as they possibly can, because there are some things that are out of our control. So
I have a quick, well, possibly not a quick question for Asha. About you mentioned about getting the library card data, which I know librarians are very concerned and sensitive about people's privacy and are sometimes hesitant. I hear from the other NNIP partners to share that data. Do you just want to talk about some of the either protections that you have or things that you heard, like how that how you made people feel
Yeah.
comfortable enough that that data was protected?
Well, I think that's actually a very good question because prior to us even being able to secure the library card holder data that we have now, there was a previous leader at the library who was concerned about that. Safety, of information, data privacy was a huge concern. And we talked to them about the fact that we had, in our data partnership agreements, which let me back up for people. I want to back up because I did tell Liz, I was chatting her, I said I wanted to talk more about the actual data trust because our data trust is the one that holds this data, right? And the data trust is a community university partnership, but it's also like our integrated data system. So it's linking that individual level administrative data across different, areas, whether it's agencies, sectors, programs, all of that. In order to be a data partner for us to hold any of that data in trust, we have privacy agreements. Not only that, there are processes to request data, and there's also a governance structure. So this information, this data that we have is protected. It goes through multiple avenues of making sure that it's done properly. We also de-identify information and data that we have. So when people, have questions about, oh, is someone going to know exactly, that this person has a card in this house at this address, is like, no one has that information. And so we did go and speak to the library leadership team about what data partnership looks like, what the agreements look like. We had face-to-face conversations. And I think that just reaffirmed for them that we were a trusted institution. And we also were able to point to other partnerships that we had, some of which they are also partners with. And so that also kind of just, I think, helped our case for trying to get the information. I think something that was also very valuable is that the library did want to support us and they did want to help us. I can say that in our situation, also very unique, that library leader also did leave that position. And then the people who were there before, who understood maybe the history of our relationship, also were ready to bring it back to the forefront because they understood the value. Right. So I think that was something that really helped us as well. I do know that my colleague Liz is on the line, so I don't know if she wants to hop in and say anything more because she was an integral part of that process as well. But yeah, that's really what we did.
Thanks, Asha. Oh yeah, I would just add that the only other thing with the library that was kind of special that we did as like an extra safety and privacy provision was we actually had a PhD student go to the library and do the data analysis and collection of the data and the de-identification and all that there on site. So that was something typically we don't do that, but the library, because of their extra concerns related to privacy, we went ahead and did that. So that was all I would add.
That's a great idea.
Thank you.
Liz, do you want to close us out?
Thought you were closing us out, Kathy.
Oh, I would close this out. Well, you can close out the Civic Switchboard. Thank you. This questions and conversation have been really helpful. Hopefully you'll be spreading your insights to all these many cities that are on this call. We will be sending a thank you follow-up email to all folks who registered with the video and the slides and links. Corey, Alexis, and Asha, I've added some links that you mentioned, but if there's other things that you want me to add, just let me know. And we hope that this is just the beginning and you'll stay in touch with both the networks of NNIP and Civic Switchboard. Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.